Hello Internet, welcome to Film Theory, where I am 100% totally Matpat and not some deep-faked talking picture of him. Ain't that right, Obama?
Yes, that's right, my good friend Matpat.
Hello Internet, welcome to Film Theory, the show that hopes to one day be hosted by an AI-generated assemblage of vocal lines gathered from the past 10 years of video uploads. That's not even a joke, I'm being absolutely serious, I'm just a talking cutout. How much easier could it be for a computer to just make this stuff up while I'm off relaxing on a beach somewhere? Anyway, before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's theory, I wanted to start things off with a little story about a long-forgotten movie. Back in 2002, New Line Cinema released a sci-fi comedy named Simone, or S1 Some tells me that mainstream audiences of 2002 weren't super comfortable with leet speak. Anyway, this film starred Al Pacino as a frustrated, over-the-hill movie director whose latest project goes to heck when his lead actress quits in the middle of filming. Fortunately, his software genius friend leaves him with, get this, experimental computer animation software for generating photorealistic humans. And thus, Simone, the perfect actress, is born.
Good morning, Simone.
Good morning, Mr. Duransky.
A star is digitized.
And people buy it. In fact, people buy it too well. She becomes the hottest, most beloved star in the world. So now, he has to generate fake interviews, fake publicity events. She ties with herself at the Oscars. She even has a live appearance using hologram technology that would put Hatsune Miku to shame. Eventually, he gets sick of it all and tries to turn the whole thing off by telling people the truth. And no one believes him. He gets accused of Simone's murder.
Forgive me, Mr. Duransky, I'm just trying to understand here. Now, all these films and TV appearances, all fake.
You understand perfectly.
And a fan club with worldwide membership in the millions, that's also bogus.
No, the fan club's real. What they were worshiping is a computer code. Ones and zeros.
Eventually, his family reactivates the Simone program to help clear his name, and from there, they take the next logical step.
Why stop at one character when you can have a whole cast? You have to finish what you started.
Simone has a family, CGI, baby and all. Why do I bring all that up? I don't know. I suppose you could say it's been on my mind recently. At the conclusion of its second season, The Mandalorian brought back young Luke Skywalker, using a combination of body double, digital de-aging effects, facial capture animation, and real-time face and voice replacement software. It is Deepfake Luke, a walking, talking CGI puppet man that can say and do whatever you want him to do. Sure, the tech wasn't fully out of the uncanny valley, but you know, it was still an impressive moment that provided a cool big reveal. And they were smart enough to keep it short so it wouldn't distract from—
Get back up. Always get back up.
Oh, okay, he's back for yet another cameo.
His name was Yoda. He was small like you, but his heart was huge.
Okay, so virtual Luke returned in a big way during the recent Mandalorian season 2.5. Sorry, I mean the book of We Already Forgot this show was supposed to be about that other helmet guy. And not just returned either. Luke had practically an entire episode to himself.
Don't try. Do. Size matters not. Will I see you again? Have you heard anyone talk like that back home? You're trying too hard.
Nope, I'm not the one trying too hard here, Luke. Just saying. And while Luke Skywalker's walking CGI puppet's been getting more and more on-screen time, he's not the only one. More and more famous actors are getting digitally de-aged for the better.
All across the universe.
Or for the worse.
Not in the cards.
But what's even more noteworthy and creepy, and also concerning from an ethical standpoint, is the higher volume of dead actors that are being brought back to life using the exact same technology.
Thought you could leave without saying goodbye.
I thought you might turn up.
What is it they've sent us?
Hope.
So today, I want to look at this trend. Why is this happening? And specifically, why is this happening now? Because spoiler alert, this exact thing used to be Hollywood's biggest fear a decade or two ago. But now, for whatever reason, the technology seems to be getting shoved down everyone's throats. Why is that? And from there, I also want to expose you to some of the more disturbing elements of the trend. Like, did you know that Disney's developing a whole human library of this stuff? And how none of it may actually require permission from the original actors. So strap in as we explore the dystopian future that's slowly evolving around us. This one is a doozy. So first, it's important to understand exactly what we're talking about here. When it comes to digitally de-aging, or even full-on resurrecting dead actors, there are three basic ways that you can take it. The first is a completely computer-generated version of a person based on scans and footage. They are literally walking, talking video game characters that have been inserted into movie scenes. Believe it or not, but everyone's favorite undercover Sith Lord Jar Jar Binks, he was the earliest motion-captured CGI character back in 1999. The character you just love to force choke. Pretty unbelievable how far we've come in the past 20 years. Gollum from Lord of the Rings came shortly afterwards in 2001. That same year, Final Fantasy The Spirits Within, it released with a full cast of quote-unquote photorealistic 3D animated actors. This thing was such a big deal that the female lead of the movie, Aki Ross, actually got an officially licensed swimsuit spread in Maxim Magazine's Hot 100. She even came in at the respectable number 87. Was that the bikini of 87? And thus the concept of synthespians was born. Synthetic thespians. Fast forward to today and the technology's gotten so advanced that it's what's been used to resurrect Peter Cushing to reprise his role as Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. The second route is using this tech almost like you would makeup or a prosthetic back in the day, where it's used to airbrush out things like wrinkles. This de-aging tech has been used to let actors like Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci play the same characters across decades of time in The Irishman. Same with de-aging Samuel L. Jackson for Captain Marvel and Michael Douglas for flashbacks in the Ant-Man movies. It can also be used in reverse, aging up Chris Evans to be old Captain America in Endgame. See the difference of him just in the makeup versus him with the CGI boost? Pretty cool. Lastly, you have Deepfake, which is the most complicated of the bunch. Here, you feed a bunch of old photos and footage into a computer to build out a library of expressions in different lighting scenarios, hairstyles, whatever. Then you have a real actor perform through the scene, but all the while a complex neural network figures out how to replace their face with a series of photos pulled from that image library based on stuff like eyeline, lighting, and expression. And from there, the team can fine-tune all the details.
Is the likeness on target? So we would experiment with different things. We would change the hair, we would put the hair over the ears, we would have it fall further behind his neck, we would change his neck size, we would bring his collar up, we would bring his shoulders down.
But what's most incredible about all this isn't the evolution of the technology, it's actually the changing attitude of Hollywood towards using the technology. When Simone hit theaters, the concept of flesh and blood actors having to compete for roles against synthespians was a big cause for concern, especially for the Screen Actors Guild. It was quite literally one of these situations.
And now these people from the future are showing up and offering to do the same work for next to nothing. They took our jobs!
For as silly as all this might sound, an army of digital actors replacing real actors, it's important to remember the context here. In 2000 and 2001, actors in Hollywood were in this huge fight. The Screen Actors Guild was in the midst of a major contract renegotiation with the rest of the industry, one that was on the verge of an industry-crippling labor strike. You see, at the time, big stars like Julia Roberts, Tom Cruise, Jim Carrey, Will Smith, and Halle Berry were what made the blockbuster system run. A whole movie could just be marketed on the premise of, these pretty people you recognize are in a place, or hey, it's Tom Cruise's headshot, and the money would just roll in from the audiences. But movie studios were frustrated with the demands of their powerful human movie stars. In fact, that's exactly why Al Pacino creates Simone in the first place in the movie.
I wanted to send a message to the acting community who put themselves above the work, who put themselves above me.
So it was a power struggle, and the studios wanted control. Eventually, both sides reached a compromise, but the damage at that point was done. The industry didn't want to be in a position of weakness again. As you probably noticed, movie stardom isn't exactly what it was back then.
These days, you can be the smartest guy in the room, the most qualified, and no one cares unless you're flying around with a cape or shooting lasers from your hands.
Oh sure, people can still have favorite actors, and certain famous faces can still make a difference at the box office, but nowadays, IP is king. Making a movie is expensive, so studios want to reduce the risk as much as possible. Back in the early 2000s, studios were forced to de-risk the movies with star power, but now it's all about de-risking using nostalgia, proven stories, pre-existing IP. Amazon's priciest project yet is a $465 million Lord of the Rings spinoff with no megastars. Netflix's biggest acquisition is the back catalog of Roald Dahl, the children's author. In the absolute star-packed cast of human actors in Infinity War, the breakout role was the purple CGI Raisin Man Thanos.
That is destiny fulfilled.
Are Robert Pattinson, Ben Affleck, Christian Bale, Michael Keaton, George Clooney, and Val Kilmer all movie stars? Yeah. In their respective eras of prominence, sure. But are any of them bigger stars than Batman?
Daddy doesn't want to drive the Batmobile.
And you see, the great thing about that for the studios is that they now own the IP. They own Thanos. They own Batman. They're no longer beholden to the actors who are in these characters' roles. They are now the ones in control. And while they're in this power position, why not own the actors too? Disney is confirmed term to basically be assembling a human library. As the Last Jedi VFX supervisor Ben Morris said in an interview, quote, "We will always digitally scan all the lead actors in the film. We don't know if we're gonna need them. We don't intentionally scan them as an archive process. It's for reference later. But since The Last Jedi, we know that this process has expanded." A really big detail that I don't think a lot of people caught in the first episode of Assembled, the Disney Plus series that does behind-the-scenes docs for various Marvel projects, was this.
I got to do this thing where it's a body scan. I took pictures, it's amazing.
Even she, a relatively minor character in one of the MCU TV projects, did a full-body digital scan to be a 3D model in Marvel's character library. They are keeping digital avatars of everybody, just in case they might need to have them show up again. Because at this point, the actor is completely unnecessary. When you're using this deepfake technology, the face doesn't have to be the same. The body doesn't have to be the same. Heck, even the voice doesn't have to be coming from the original actor. Basically, when you look at Virtual Luke, the reason he sounds so stilted right now, it's just a smart text-to-speech bot that's learned how to speak like a young Mark Hamill.
Something people didn't realize is that his voice isn't real. The young Luke Skywalker voice is completely synthesized.
It's a neural network, basically, you feed information into and it learns.
Sure, Mark Hamill posed for some of the shots to make him feel good about his participation, but that's exactly what it was. It was all there to make him feel good. There was also a body double doing the exact same thing, and you get a sense from these interviews that Mark Hamill recognizes that he's just an accessory in this process.
I was contacted inviting me to come over and take a look at Mandalorian. They said they'd love my opinion. That should have been a giveaway right away.
In short, we are rapidly progressing to the future predicted by Simone, to the point that the Screen Actors Guild feared back in 2000. We are progressing beyond needing actors. I think this line puts it best.
We knew we wanted Mark Hamill front and center, because you can't bring back Luke Skywalker without Mark Hamill. I suppose technologically speaking, you could, but we didn't want to.
The actor is completely arbitrary in the process. It's the plot of Simone come to reality. Obviously, the reason Disney keeps rolling out Virtual Luke is to train the audience into liking it, to desensitize us into just accepting it as a viable alternative to the real actors. It's exposure therapy. It's giving us small doses of something until we no longer notice how weird it is. You know that Disney is currently running the math on how much it would cost them in terms of logistics and public perception to produce an entire film starring a virtually reconstructed younger version of the original Star Wars cast. And that's only concerning them. What do you think the odds are that we're gonna see and hear from some form of Liam Neeson's Qui-Gon Jinn in the upcoming Kenobi? And beyond Star Wars, with Ghostbusters experimenting with the technology in Afterlife, can't be that far off that we'll see the whole cast alive and young again for the Ghostbusters 3 that we never got. Bit by bit, actors are just being devolved into their characters. The technology is allowing the character to stay frozen in time, and by collecting scanned libraries of humans, these characters perpetually sit on the shelf ready to get pulled out for their next spin-off story. It's just more IP that the studios are adding to their vaults. And the craziest part of all is that the actors one day might not even need to give their consent to any of this stuff. This probably merits an episode unto itself, but very quickly, the right to publicity is the right for someone to control how their name and likeness is used for commercial purposes. And while many countries have rules in place for these rights while a person's alive, the idea of protecting someone after their death is a relatively new concept. For example, in the US, different states have different lengths of protection ranging from 10 years to 100. Meanwhile, in the UK, there's nothing explicit. There's just a few other laws that kinda cover it when you squint. What it all amounts to is that after someone dies, you really just need one person to approve the usage of that dead celebrity's likeness. And if you wait even longer, well, technically you don't need anyone's approval. That person basically enters the public domain to do whatever you want with them. To star in any movie you want. To sell any product you want. It's exactly what happened to the famous dancer and actor Fred Astaire in 1997, where his likeness was licensed out by his widow to appear in vacuum commercials, leading his daughter to complain that her father's career had been sold to the devil, the dirt devil.
Nothing escapes the power of a dirt devil.
As Homer Simpson put it,
"You people must realize that the public owns you for life, and when you're dead, you'll all be in commercials dancing with vacuum cleaners."
This is why I'm telling you that when you look at Virtual Luke on the Star Wars shows, you're looking at the future of all of this. Is it good? Is it bad? Remains to be seen.
Well, a tool is neither good nor bad. We try to apply ethics to what we do, where we are only using these tools for good.
Studios want it because it gives them total control. They can deliver the exact IP audiences want, starring the exact characters they want without having to deal with the messiness of real actors with real problems, like aging. Actors may want this, it's unclear. It definitely allows them to extend their careers and profit off continual usage of their likeness, at least until that passes over into the public domain and Mark Hamill is no longer asked to give his opinion on his likeness's usage in the book of Mandalorian. And audiences, yeah, we're the frogs in the boiling pot right now. The heat is slowly getting turned up as digital characters are fed to us more and more in larger and larger roles. Will we hop out of the water when it starts to boil? My guess? Nope, probably not. The studios really want this to work, and if that's all they're offering to us, we'll just keep consuming it. The only question would be, well, whether or not this gets in the way of doing anything new. Whether it actually stymies studios from being forced to create new ideas and new content when the IP that makes money becomes that much more bulletproof. New ideas? The only thing scarier than virtual Luke's deep-faked face is the idea of having to take a risk on something new. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut.